Folks, welcome back to Flat Irons Tuning. We're here in the shop because something came to us after the most recent podcast. If you've watched that, we talk about how cars kind of have gotten more expensive than they've ever been before. Like, our enthusiasts getting priced out of the market. And, definitely, the prices of the cars has gone kind of insane. But what we got to thinking about here and talking about around the shop is inflation, and then going back to maybe, say, 2002 when the WRX first landed. So to give you an insight, so 2024 WRX, we have a base model here, and the base MSRP for a base WRX 2024, it's about $32,700. So what we got to wondering is, okay, well, 2002 when the WRX came out, MSRP on the 2002 WRX was about $24,000. If we take inflation away from the 2024, like if we were going to release the 2024 WRX in 2002 at $2,002, how much would it be? Would it be more or less than the WRX was? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Don't cheat. But it turns out it would actually be a little bit less. Actually, it'd be a lot less. If you took that $32,700 and you took inflation away back to 2002, comes out to about $18,700. We're using an inflation calculator from the Minnesota Federal Reserve. Inflation is their thing, so we figured this is probably a pretty reliable calculator. So that's what we're going to use for all these calculations. But that's fascinating. That's about 22% less than what the WRX actually was. In fact, it was kind of like Impreza dollars in 2002. But this is a WRX, and this is arguably the best WRX that there ever has been, has the most performance that there ever has been, and it's kind of significantly cheaper than the WRX has ever been too. So then we got to thinking about the WRX TR, the 2024 TR, because that's got all the fancy bells and whistles. It's got the fancy interior, the Brembo brakes, all that good stuff. Base MSRP on the WRX TR is $41,655. So then let's take a look back at the 2006 WRX TR when that model first came out. One was tuner ready, now it's track ready, but that 2006 WRX TR base MSRP was $24,600. So if we take the 2024 WRX TR and we go back to $2,006, do you think it's going to be more or less? Well, here it turns out it's more, but just a little bit. So that 2024 WRX adjusted back to $2,006 would be about $26,700. But there's an interesting note here, which is that the 2006 WRX TR was the cheapest one that you could get. It was cheaper than the base WRX because it didn't have the fancy interior. It didn't have the fancy seats, didn't have sunroof, didn't have the automatic climate control. It was kind of like the stripped down minimalist WRX. So it was $1,000 less than all the other WRXs to start. But now the WRX TR, it's the fancy one. It's got the fancy interior, the fancy brakes, it's got all the good stuff. So they're kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, and it was only about $2,000 difference if you take the 2024 WRX back to $2,006. That's kind of crazy. So then this got us thinking about the STI. So the last year of the STI was 2021. Base MSRP for 21 STI was about $37,300. Now, 2004 is when the STI first came out. So if you adjusted the 2021 STI back to $2,004, do you think it's going to be more or less than the 2004 STI? 2004 STI base MSRP was $30,995. Turns out it's less, and it's a lot less. The 2021 STI adjusted back would be $25,900. So let's call it 26. So significantly less than what the STI actually sold for in 2004, and very similar to the WRX TR, $26,000. Base MSRP for the WRX TR was $24,000. It's kind of WRX dollars for an STI in 2021 when you look at inflation. Let's go the other way. Again, 2004 STI, base price $30,995. If we bring that up to 2024 dollars, what would that be? Turns out it would be $51,600, adjusted for inflation. So that's a lot of money. Now, to put this in perspective, generally speaking, historically, there's been about $10,000 difference between the WRX and the STI. Now, we know that the base WRX is $32,000. The WRX TR base MSRP is $41,600. Well, that's right in line with what the 2004 STI would have been adjusted for inflation, $51,000. So there's still basically that $10,000 gap, but that's not what Subaru did. Subaru kept the price low on the STI to the point where basically the best value of the STI was the last year it was made. The best value of the WRX is this year compared to everything else. So they're kind of holding the prices low. They're kind of trying to keep, basically they're not following the path of inflation. So what does this mean? Around the shop we got to talking about it, and what seems like a possible answer for this is, what this means is this is one of the reasons why they stopped making the STI. Because for them to keep the price that low for this long, they had to make less and less money on the STI. So it was less and less profitable towards the end. All of a sudden, it now makes sense why the STI had the same drivetrain for almost 20 years, why it had basically the same engine for almost 20 years. Why didn't they put something other than EJ in the STI through all these years? Well, if they're trying to keep the price this low, well, they can't spend that the development R&D money into the STI because they would just blow the price up. So you got to figure this has to be at least part of the calculation as far as why the STI went away. I mean, Subaru's got, I'm sure, a fleet of accountants. This must have come up in some of the meetings. So the question then is, why did Subaru keep the price low? And you got to figure it's because the STI never sold in huge quantities. The WRX, for certain years, did, but for a lot of years, it also did not sell a lot, especially compared to like the Forester and the Outback. Like those, they're selling probably 10 Foresters, 10 Outbacks for every one WRX. They're probably thinking, well, we got to keep the price low, because if the price goes too high, then we won't sell any of these things. And historically, you look back, the SVX and all that sort of thing. Some of these halo cars that Subaru's had historically, where they were very high priced in the market and they just never sold them. I'm guessing that's what Subaru was afraid of. So they kept this price artificially low. But then they never really upped, the performance of the car. They never gave us more power. They never made it faster. So why weren't people buying the STIs? Is it because it never changed, or is it because the price was not? I don't know. They just didn't perceive the value. I don't know. Let us know what you think in the comments. Do you think that this could be it? And what this then possibly foreshadows is what the STI is probably going to be when it comes back out, because there's all these rumors circulating that Subaru's going to bring the STI back. Well, based on this, I mean, it's kind of got to be in the $50,000 to $55,000 range, and they're going to have to do all this new R&D now because there's now this time gap, and they're going to have to use probably the FA24 platform for the new STI. So what is the performance that the STI is going to have to be if it's going to have to be this $55,000 price? We have our guesses, but you'll let us know down in the comments. If you like what we're doing, be sure to like and subscribe. Check out the merch in the bottom of the YouTube page here. And until next time, as always, stay tuned to Flatiron Student.